Now we're going to take our compositions a step further by adding and manipulating them using audio and MIDI effects. Reverb is a really common audio effect and something we encounter in our everyday lives as well. Every space we enter, every room we enter has a natural reverb to it. Whether it's the Grand Canyon or your bathroom, the sound is going to reflect off of the surfaces or the walls, if there are any, in a different way and come back to us. And we can visualize what a room sounds like by its reverberation. We can take our ideas, our MIDI and audio compositions, and put them into different rooms using an audio effect like reverb. Reverb is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to audio effects, but it's a useful example for those of you who may not know how they work or understand them right off the bat. I don't have the time to go into every single audio effect that's available to you, so I'm going to give you a general overview of how they work inside of Ableton Live and how you can use them to enhance the musicality of your compositions. I could go on and on about audio and MIDI effects, and there's somewhat limitless possibilities to how they can be used, combined, affected, and manipulated. And my best advice that I could give to you at this point is to use your ears. Turn all of the knobs, flip all of the switches, take it too far, pull it back in. Try not to get frustrated, and make sure that you take listening breaks. Continuing on from the set we've been working on, I added one MIDI track here with one clip on it. And there are two ways to put an effect on a track, and the first way we're going to look at is by inserting it directly onto a channel. So first we're going to select the channel we want to drop the effect on. So I've selected breakbeat here, and then I'm going to scroll over to Live's browser and select audio effects from the left-hand side. You'll see that there's a huge amount of audio effects to choose from, some of whose names we may know already and others which may be pretty foreign to us. And similarly to how sounds are organized, if we click on a triangle to the left of any audio effect, we can unfold it and find that it contains many subcategories, which are referred to as presets. If I scroll down here to reverb and unfold it, we'll find that it's categorized into types of rooms or spaces, which can then again be unfolded, which is where we're going to find the presets for this particular audio effect. I'm going to choose a preset called Drums Rooms, since that seems like an obvious choice for this breakbeat here. And I'm going to click and drag it down here into the audio effects chain. So if I press play here, we'll immediately hear the effect happening. And we can hear how spacious it becomes and even get somewhat of a visual as to what the room might look like. Adjusting the dry wet knob will turn the amount of the effect up or down. So you can hear this happening. I'm going to set it at around 50, and then I'm going to deactivate the audio effect by clicking on the yellow circle on the top left-hand side of it, and you can hear really clearly what it sounds like with the effect on and off. So now I'm going to add another audio effect directly onto the track, and this time I'm going to go up to Beat Repeat, unfold it, and I'm going to load in a preset called Squishy. This time I'm just going to double click on the audio effect, and you'll see it immediately pop up here in the effects chain after the reverb. So here I'll turn the reverb off and we can hear the beat repeat alone. So it's a pretty cool effect. This is one of my favorite ones. And then here we'll turn the reverb back on. We can rearrange the order of the effects on the track by clicking on one of the titles and just dragging it over to the beginning here. So you can have them be in whatever order you want the audio signal to be processed in. Choosing a preset version of an effect is a really great way to get started if you want to get somewhere fast or you're new to audio effects. You can also choose the default setting of an audio effect, which is more of a general blank canvas sort of predetermined set of parameters, but it's still a preset. So I encourage you to experiment by clicking all of these buttons, adjusting all of the knobs, and finding out more about the devices that interest you by doing an internet search and learning what you can about each of them. For instance, Corpus is one of my favorite audio effects, and it probably has no meaning to you at this point, so I suggest doing an internet search to find out more about the Corpus audio effect. I'm going to remove the reverb and the beat repeat by just clicking on their titles and deleting it using my computer's keyboard here. And now I'm going to show you how to add reverb to the track by sending the audio to a return track. By default, when you open a new live set, it has 2 return tracks already inside of it, one containing reverb here on return A, and then another with delay on return B. If you aren't seeing the return tracks or the send knobs, make sure that the S and the R are selected on the side here. Return tracks are channels that can contain an array of audio effects, and you can route signal from any number of other tracks into them. And that's going to leave the audio tracks themselves unaffected. So if I press play on this breakbeat here again, and I turned up send A, we're actually sending a portion of the signal to the return track, which is then running through the reverb audio effect. If we only turn the knob up 50%, what we're actually hearing is 50% of the signal with the reverb on it, which we call the wet signal, and the other 50% we hear is the dry or unaffected signal. It may sound sort of the same to you at first, but sending signal to a return track is most definitely very different than inserting it directly onto the track. A very common reason to use a return track is if you want the same effects or effects chain to be on multiple audio or MIDI tracks. This is going to save you the additional work of adding the effect several times on several tracks, but also since every effect or device you add requires a certain amount of your computer's processing power, or CPU, you're going to lessen the strain on your computer by using one effect or multiple effects which are receiving audio from a number of other tracks. Audio effects can be dropped onto both audio and MIDI tracks, but MIDI effects will only work on MIDI tracks. But that being said, the process of inserting them onto a track is exactly the same. So I've got a MIDI part here. We'll just take a quick listen to it. You can hear it's pretty boring. So this time I'm going to go over to Live's browser and select MIDI effects here. And I'm going to add an arpeggiator. So I'm double clicking on the effects chain here. An arpeggiator is a really cool effect that is going to add movement and range to a part, which may need a little more oomph, and it works particularly well in sustained parts like a pad or a chord, just like this one. So we're already hearing the effect, and I'm going to change some of these knobs here, and we'll see things happening. So now that that's happening, I'm going to turn up send A. And we'll hear that even more flavor is added to